Hey, what's going on? Today we're talking about go to market in 2021 for B2B companies. I have been doing this for a handful of companies recently and had a really great conversation with a new friend, James, at CommandBar the other day. Really talented founder of a company that I think is really just going to take off. And I was thinking about how to take these very complex go-to-market processes that I've been building for companies and how to make them drastically simpler. So today I'm going to walk you through what's changed in the world that makes it so that you need a really solid go-to-market strategy. And then I'm going to walk you through the kind of high-level frameworks that I use to be able to help companies do this. And then I'm actually going to take you through an example with CommandBar. I don't really know anything about the product, but I spent a little time reading on their website and I invented some things that will at least help you get to think in the right direction. So let's dive in. So in 2008, you could just build a great product. You could spend a lot of time building a great product, and you could walk through this sort of polygram process here, which is you had a big splashy launch. People cared about those launches. You just built and built and built, iterated, and eventually users start resonating, and boom, you were good. Just keep building. You could also sell your way manually. You could do crazy things like Airbnb did, which is like launch a serial, try wacky things. You could just cold outbound people because there wasn't so much market noise that you get drowned out. The Airbnb example is kind of a bad one because we're talking about B2B here, but you get the idea. You could partner your way there. So Y Combinator was kind of this elite group of people. People would open those emails. You could sell to those folks. That's not as true today, and not that they're not an elite institution, but they just accept a lot more people. The network is bigger now, and you lose some of the magic behind that partnership. In 2008, the way to scale this was just give a bunch of tools. Outreach was, Outreach, LinkedIn, built with, send these tools off with sales reps and just spam the world, and you get some replies here. And of course, great sales reps wouldn't necessarily do this, but they had to do the great prospecting sort of one by one. You could also market, right? You could run a bunch of Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads. Some people would click, some people wouldn't convert. That's okay. Your CAC is low enough that it didn't matter. 2021 is different though, and not only different because the technology has changed where we now have a wide array of tools to help you go to market much, much better, but because buyers are inundated, because things have changed for a lot of buyers and it's a buyer market now. And the goal of going to market in 2021 is to take that sort of one signal of light and break it up into the different components so that you can use the different colors to I took the metaphor too far, but to basically go to market in a much more nuanced way, but with data, and data in such a way that no individual SDR could do what this process allows them to do. And the landscape has changed for a variety of reasons. The first is there's more software. 221 chatbot softwares. Like, do we need 221 chatbot softwares? What is the differentiator between 221 chatbot softwares? I can't even imagine the amount of features that could make one of these folks like vastly different than the other. Now, that may be the case, but as a buyer, if someone comes to me and said, I do chatbots, they have to really, really amp up their message if they want to tell me how they're better than Intercom or Drift. Or even a competitor of those folks that are just 1/10 the cost now. There's a lot more bad sales, a lot more sales noise here. So there's a higher bar to drive positive results. I can't tell you how many emails James got once his raise was announced. Just a bunch of people using that signal of, hey, you have money, I want your money, right? It's ridiculous. Don't do that. And this is a bad email. I just pulled it randomly from my inbox. And of course, I didn't respond. There's also more go-to-market channels, and it means that the best product doesn't win. So people have community. So people want to feel part of something. So even if your product is 10x better, if the community of the other company's product is 10 times better, they may stick with that because they know that they have support. Really, people have done such a good job at SEO. People can beat you to market. And they also can have much better growth loops in their product. So you get one user and your competitor gets one user, and they can add an additional 2 users from that one user because their growth loops are so good, which means that they will grow their way over you. So 2021 is really about conquering the triangle. You have to do great on all three fronts. You have to have a product that people want, right? YC mantra here. You have to have a go-to-market strategy that is so much better than your competitors. And you need growth loops so that when people get into the product, that it naturally is not only beneficial for your customers, but their customers, as well as for you. That's a great sort of trifecta here. I'm not going to talk about product. I don't know anything about product. I mean, not really. That's not my area. Growth loops we'll talk about tomorrow, a different time. I have some thoughts here, but I don't want to get into that. This is about go to market. And really the perfect intersection here is the connection between a prospect's pain, right? This is the problem that you solve, their desire to solve that pain, and those are two different things. And then the message that you take to that person. Now, I see it all the time. What people try to do is they ignore pain and they try to increment their message here to make it better, to convert better. And it will never work because you have to start with the pain. And one step further, you need to be able to refine that pain by desire to solve that pain. So just because I have only left socks in my drawer, I don't know why I keep using this. I use it all the time. Just because I have only left socks doesn't mean that I have a desire to purchase a right sock. It could be that I just don't need them, or it's not cold enough, or I don't walk enough, right? But if I have a problem and I have a strong desire now to fix it, if you can combine the messaging with those two things, suddenly you don't necessarily have to have the best product, and you may not even have to have the best growth loops, but if you can go to market 10 times better than your competitors, it might be good enough. So I thought a lot about how to simplify this because there's so many moving parts. I'm going to talk about complexity here a little bit later, but I think that maybe a way to think about this is reverse into this process with copy, because the best way to understand the system is as if you were having a one-on-one conversation with someone. What would you say to them that wouldn't sound ridiculous? What's the best possible message that you could write to someone? And then you can take that and abstract the system out of that. So let me break down this kind of generic copy here that is really very variable, and why you should think about this as how you build this process for your company. So what's changed that make you need them now? This is really important. This is not a static state of pain. Now, it may be that the company is able to be in a static state of pain that you can help, but you really want to know what's changed now that has made them likely to solve this problem. And I'll get into that later. Now, why they are a great fit. Ideally, this is a static state sentence, three S's, that makes them really perfect for you as kind of a company. And so this isn't about the change in the world. That's the signal. That's the peak of the pain. This is about what is going on with the company that you can put into a sentence that might make them right for you. So to give you an example of what this sounds like, this might be that I see that company has a 5x greater employee churn rate than the average company, right? That's just a random example that if your product solves employee churn, that might be a good sort of static state of any company. Now, the delta might be something different that means that they are ready to solve that now. Could be things like job positions. It could be things like they've had a spike in churn. There could be other things, right? But this is about kind of a static state. So like for CommandBar, for example, this might mean that the company has way more support articles. And that's the kind of big ring around the market. I'll get into that later, but that's how you should sort of think about this. Who you are relative to their pain, be impressive. So if you have 3 features, don't write about all of them, right? You want to introduce yourself. You should always introduce yourself there. There should be no I's in the first 3 sentences, right? This is not about you. Sales reps do this all the time. I want to sell. I want you to buy something. I want this. I'm about this. This is not about you. It's about the prospect and what the prospect wants and the pain the prospect is in and why you're reaching out. So everyone wants to understand the why. The why is really important. And it's not just that great fit why. It's kind of this double punch. It's about what's changed recently and what's true about your company that's not generic, by the way. It's not like I'm selling you because you have 50 plus employees. That's not the sentence. And who you are relative to their pain. You want to be impressive here. So I'm Jordan. I run Scout. We've helped 5,382 companies send 20 million postcards, right? That's an impressive sentence. And ideally, you want to make this relevant to their pain. So if their pain was to purchase shoes, I might say we have sold shoes to 80,000 people, or we have sold shoes to LeBron James, right? Who uses you that's relevant to their pain? This is the reference customer. So if I'm selling to Ford, I don't want to say my reference customer is Sony, right? That's not going to make any sense. They're like, yeah, I guess Sony's a big company, but how is that relevant to me? If I'm selling to a small startup, I don't want to say Salesforce is a customer because I'm going to say Salesforce is not relevant to me. So ideally, this is relevant in the same industry with the same pain, with the same size, right? Or someone that they aspire to be, right? And this is, you could kind of go into huge layers of complexity here, but it's really important to get that right. Now, this is something I've kind of adjusted recently, which is like not about the sale. What information do you have that would be beneficial to the prospect regardless of if they use their product or not? And there's 1,000 different things I can think of with the types of customers that I work with. But what you really need to think about, what unique knowledge do you have about the pain that your product solves that they might be able to leverage? And this, the nice thing about this is you can pitch someone not on a sale, but you can pitch them on educating them with your expertise, right? And that is just a much easier thing to do. Now, you don't have to be coy about selling necessarily, but this is really important to give the prospect another reason to take a call with you. All right, let's look into this system. 3 rings here. First, I like to think about the ring around the market, right? What is that wide ring that you can draw? And this should be tens of thousands, maybe even low hundreds of thousands, probably high tens of thousands of companies that you could reasonably help. And I'm going to walk into what that means in a second. And this is not has more than 50 employees, is a B2B company. That's not what this is. And then what's changed where the company needs you now? So what public signal or change in the world makes a company really, really good for your product now, right? If it doesn't matter if they've been in a steady state of pain, if something hasn't changed that they're showing signs that they're willing to invest time or money to solve this problem, it's not a good time to reach out. Just wait. And the system will tell you, which is great. Trust in the system. And then who can you help 100x? This is usually correlated with your pricing, but who is in 100 times the pain of other customers? And this may be folks that you automate, but instead, I would use a service like Alice, which you can send personalized B2B gifts. I would say, hey, I'm only in San Francisco for a day, and my boss told me to spend $1,000 on prospects. I'll take you to the nicest dinner that you can imagine if you'll give me some time to chat about who I am and my product, right? If you know that someone could be worth $1 million in ARR to you, there's no reason why you shouldn't try off-the-wall things. Now, you don't have to do that with this strategy, but gold really unlocks a bunch of different things and a bunch of different channels and ways to go to market, which I'll talk about later. So who can you reasonably help? So this is everyone that you could reasonably help. And I say reasonably because the way that a lot of folks will think about this is like, well, I can help anyone that has a marketing director with 500 employees, right? No. There are some basics, of course. Maybe you don't want to sell into large accounts, which is okay. Or it could be that you're not right for companies that are headquartered outside the United States. So that's the kind of basic ring, but you need at least one specific pain. So what you could do is what has greater than 3x industry average employee churn, right? That might be something that you go after. So what is an example of a company that's your kind of ring, right? So let's look at all that data, right? Now you know these people generally suffer from the thing that you solve. Now, we can do programmatic monthly pain monitoring. So I want to talk about how to think about this pain monitoring, right? This is that second ring. So what you want is a pain event frequency that is high. So you want this to happen often. So if your pain event signal is a company is hiring a product manager who focuses on user onboarding, well, if you think about that big ring, maybe this only happens one time every year across all of your companies. It may be a very high signal that is correlated with the problem you solve in CommandBar's case, but frequency is extremely low. So what you really want to do is find the pain frequency. What is the thing that happens often that is also highly correlated with the problem you solve? So you want to be far and to the right. And these are the signals that you want to focus on. Now, there could be signals at this lower tier which don't happen very often, but they still are highly correlated with the problem you solve. And if they're easy to implement, do it. But you really want to focus on what are the things that happen often. And I want to give you some examples of what this looks like and when to use it, because you'll see a lot of sales folks say, I saw you just raise money. I like money. You have money. Give me your money. And that's the message, of course, is terrible. The idea is not bad, but only if you're selling something that can help a founder pre-raise, post-raise. So let's walk through some generic examples and changes, and I'm going to talk about example products that would match those changes. So company is added first offshore office in England, pretty specific, right? And if you're a London cultural trainer, right, that might be a perfect product to look at that signal. And that's something that you can tell programmatically, by the way. So suddenly now there is a pain signal really relevant to the product you solve. These examples are a little silly. It's because there's a lot of nuance in finding this for your product, and you really have to understand your customers. And then there's a kind of an interesting gap between the problem you solve and the public signals that can identify some proxy of that problem. That's kind of where the magic is, and I'm trying ways to make that magic a little simpler. So launches on Product Hunt. Well, if you're a Product Hunt booster and you can help people boost their product and you can catch products right when they launch on Product Hunt, that might be a really good signal for you. That's not a good signal if you are basically anyone that can serve a new product, right? That's a bad signal for that. That just says you have a product, which is not an interesting enough signal. Gets funding from a VC partner. So if I work with a venture capitalist and you're selling a banking product with X amount of interest, you can say, I work very closely with this venture capitalist. I'm a banking product. 80% of these of the folks in this portfolio use me. You should use me too. It's a no-brainer. That's like a good example of a type of product that could use that signal. Hired a head of HR who's a previous champion of your product. There are tools actually that will automate just this one flow. That's how valuable this is. But so you can actually monitor all of your champions, and when they go to a new company, you can reach out and say, I know you loved me at your last company. Why don't you take that love to your next company? And this is the type of lock-in that will exist in businesses that will make it much, much harder for you to break into products, because as people change and move and the world changes, products will follow those people. So this is where you have a wonderful opportunity to differentiate yourself. So that's some HR software. Headcount increased by 30% in engineering. So Jira might be they're a bug tracker software. That might be a great sign to say, hey, I know you've increased your complexity. You may be I see you're using Notion, and maybe that product is not good enough for your complexity, right? Super specific signal. Greater than X C-suite leave. So you might be a C-suite recruiting software. You can say, hey, Jordan, it looks like you've had some pretty serious churn at your C-suite. It looks like you might need some help. And I see that you have job openings for those folks. I mean, I don't know if you have C-suite job openings, but that would be a good time to reach out. Adds over X number of Y types of tech. So it could be that you add more than 10 pieces of tech software that on average cost over $10K. Now you're spending $100K, and you're a SaaS pricing negotiation tool. So I can say, hey, Jordan, you've just crossed the mark where you're paying about one full salary for SaaS. We can help you lower your SaaS rates by 50% and we can do that with these types of software that you use. That's a good signal. Add additional employee benefits on their website. So an employee perk company, hey, Jordan, I see that you're doubling down on investing in your employees. I have a piece of software that invests in employees as well. You should consider me. Hiring an engineer for security. So this might be good for a vulnerability reporting company. Did you know that I can make Jordan's job easier and tell him all of the problems that he should focus on your website and scan your site for vulnerability? Would you like to give him a head start at his job? G2 Crowd negative pricing reviews, so a pricing calibration tool. Jordan, I noticed you're getting a lot of complaints about your update in pricing. And suddenly you combine that with knowing when they changed pricing from their website, and you can do some really, really powerful things. Glassdoor reviews about pay. So this might be pay calibration tools. Hey, Jordan, I see that Larry and Barry are unhappy with their pay at bob.co. We can help you fix that across all your company, across all of your employees. You have to be careful with some of these negative signals. You have to really focus on the copy, but they can be very useful for figuring out who to write to. Now, I want to talk about this gold here, and basically in 2008, you could randomly prospect to people, and you would get replies that say, "I am." The way that you describe your problem isn't quite what I need, but I do have this pain. Can you do X? And then you can reply and do X. You could close that sale. In the top left, if you are prospecting to people that aren't in a lot of pain, but you've got a really great message, they'll tell you like your message sucks. You're targeting the wrong people. So in the top left, you're targeting the wrong people. In the bottom right, you're saying the wrong thing. In today's world, though, in any of these boxes, no one replies. Now, most people are doing outbound in the bottom left box here, which is like no deep understanding of the pain, and therefore the messaging is wrong, and no hacks can fix it. So you'll see people all the time, I moved my open rate from 10% to 50%. Wow, great. How many more sales? No more sales, but more people are opening. That just means that you've hacked human psychology. You're not saying anything more interesting. Now, generally when I think about this, I start somewhere towards the center here. So what is the simplest thing that we can do to get the most outsized results? But there's a complexity curve. And as you add more complexity to the system, right, you start layering on these different rings, it becomes harder to do this, but you start to get this inflection where reply rates skyrocket. And as you can then get additionally more complex, but reply rates level off. So you really want to find that sweet spot where you can add complexity to the system, get those high reply rates, and not be any more complex. So as simple as possible and no simpler, right? It's an Einstein thing. So who can you help 100x? And this is the magnitude of the pain. So now this is of course going to vary for different companies, but has greater than 10 offices. So if you're an office supply software, that might be a really good sign for you. Has greater than X CEOs in 5 years. If you're a CEO compensation package or a cultural, you basically help retain CEOs, that might be a great signal for you, or a sort of a tighter ring. HR department is less than 0.1% of the company. That means that they're vastly under-resourced with human resources. 5 VPs of product in 5 years. That means that maybe something is challenging about working with the product team. Maybe you're a tool that helps product teams get together. Greater than 5 layoffs in 1 year. So maybe you're a company that helps deal with employee offboarding, and you really will help them land on their feet so people will say good things about the company. Has greater than 5 non-GDPR compliant pieces of software. So who are the people that, if you're a GDPR compliance firm, that are really doing a bad job at leaking GDPR data, and they could be subject to huge fines? Has greater than 5 pricing plans. Maybe they have a bunch of complex pricing, and you're there's a great pricing, I forget the name of the pricing company, Price Intelligently. So if you're Price Intelligently, you can say, Jordan, you have too many plans. I've noticed that you've only added plans over time. We should chat. Their website takes greater than 5 seconds to load. Maybe you're an SEO company, and that's really important. That particular signal is used often, but you get the idea. Greater than 10 2-star Google reviews, right? So that might be another good sign that there's a lot of pain here that you can help review management. Maybe greater than X monthly tweets their support account. That might be something that says that they're fielding too many support tickets. So let's dive into CommandBar, and I don't know really anything about CommandBar. I spent 5-10 minutes with the co-founder. No, actually, we spent like an hour. But I didn't really talk about the product at all. I don't know the users. I just looked at their website, but I want to walk you through this process so you can see an example of how I might think about doing this. So no insider knowledge. So CommandBar is instant in-product search. You can pop it right in. It's the superhuman search for any product, right? So if you have a pretty complex product, a lot of support articles, a lot of different features, it allows people to search in that product, go right to that place and make those changes. So the first thing I did, and the first thing I'll do with any client, is have the CEO or an SDR or someone that really prospects, that thinks about customers, not only do the forward action, which is tell me about how you find your best customers, tell me about what types of things you think about. I'll have them do the reverse motion, which is give me everyone that's bought, tell me why they bought, what was the moment they bought. So complete that full picture for me. So I haven't done that here, but I've just looked at their website. So let's start left and go clockwise. Powerful natural language search instantly connects users' intent to actions. Okay, that's good. Personalized recommendation. So this might be really good if a product talks about personalization. Like if a product is about personalization, that's where CommandBar can really help. Shortcuts for command actions. So if there's a lot of different menus, right? That's the kind of thing I'm thinking about. Connected data sources. I love this one because now I start thinking about tech. What types of tech does a company use? What types of tech are they integrated with? Now, this is really, really interesting because if CommandBar can drastically help if you have a ton of different tech with your site to make things simpler, that might be a really good thing to start thinking about. Okay, now we've got a quote. I love quotes. Quotes are just the best because it's a user in their own voice with their own language and their own jargon talking about the pain that you solve. So, okay, so let's kind of look at this. And sorry, my camera's heating up, so I hope we can get through. We may have to resume in a second. Let's see. Took us literally 20 minutes to add the stipend and commands in the editor. Literally saved us weeks redesigning our UI. There it is. That's the key. So redesigning our UI, that is a key that instead of having to hire designers, that CommandBar can actually take the load off of that. So if they have long design cycles or they're down on designers, just use CommandBar. It's a great stopgap. All right, best possible insight into user intent. When your user searches CommandBar, they tell you in their own words what they're trying to do in your app, intent. So this is good because I'm now thinking, how do I questions? If there's a lot of how do I in the support articles, in Twitter, in G2 reviews, I couldn't figure out how to. That's the thing that they solve. So the more of that there is in the world, then I feel really good about this for CommandBar. What users need when they need it. Quicker access, contextual onboarding, search inside your app, whenever they're on. Okay, I like search. New features they may be interested. This is another good one. So now I'm thinking about what are the things that have changed and how often do they change? So in a product, if people are launching really quickly, a lot of changes, right? That's where CommandBar can be really helpful. So product teams that ship really, really fast and are way ahead of the support articles, that's another good example of someone that I would prospect to. Speed, okay, so speed, that's really important. So I might look at websites that have a lot of speed tech to really keep their speed of their website really fast or their app. Work every major desktop browser. Okay, good. Personalization, we talked about that. Natural language search. I don't know how I would use that one. Easy configuration, this is good, right? Folks that have not many engineers, right? So they don't have to bother engineers. So who has a bunch fewer engineers than the average product team? Support question in app Slack. Okay, average response time is 32 seconds. That's great. All right. I'm going to pause there now because my camera is sadly too hot. We'll pick this up in just a minute. So hold on to your hats. And we're back. All right, let's reverse into the problem with copy. So remember, this is the process that we start. So what change makes them need you now? This is what we want to think about. Why are they a fit? Really important. Who are you relative to their pain? Who uses them that's relevant to them / their pain? Assume no sale. What benefit will they get from chatting? So this is the framework, again, we talked about. So let's sort of look into this. So 187 new support articles for Lobster Launch. So Lobster is the product here. Lobster Launch is Lobster Liquidator, right? So we are able to basically look at the launch pattern, right? They launched, and then we look at the change in delta on their website to identify how many additional support articles they had to labor through for launch. Hi, Dominic. Saw Lincoln Lobster Co., that's the prospect, right? Launched Lobster Liquidator yesterday on Product Hunt, right? So really contextual clues about what's important to them. Awesome. And then this is like more research, right? This is that big ring around the market about why they're qualified. After looking through your site, I saw that Jim, right? This is the support person, the head of support, and the support team wrote/updated 147 new support articles for Lobster Liquidator. Wow, hard work. All about them. This is all about them, not about me. First me sentence. I'm James and I run CommandBar. CommandBar's goal is to instantly service all the support articles inside of Lobster Liquidator. This is relative to their pain, remember? So users can get what they want the moment they need it now. That's exactly the problem that Lobster Liquidator is suffering from. We helped Carlos Crabco launch Crabcatcher last month, and it led to 1,414 more monthly active crab finders. So this is a relevant case study that is about someone else that they helped that is relevant to Lobster Liquidator. Happy to share the top things that we've learned about product usage pain from the 141,414 monthly active CommandBar users, right? This is a really powerful sentence about what we've learned after improving the lives of 141,000 end users. I made that number up. I have no idea what the number is, but this is the type of thing that you might write. And the point here is that this is not necessarily about sales. You can say, hey, just so you know, I took a look at your site. I was looking at different pieces here, and I noticed that these are the things that you can do to kind of reduce that. Now, this question is really tricky. Any interest in helping Jim lower his support volume? So I'm saying it's not about my product. It's not about me. It's not even about what I do for you. It's about what you should do for Jim. And so that's kind of a little sneaky trick there. And then the PS is like, even if CommandBar is not a fit, I'll give you onboarding tips and tricks. So I'll tell you about all the things that we've learned in building this product that people really search for a lot. It's they want to figure out how to get to the support articles, or they don't really care about the support articles. It's they want to figure out how to get payments page, so make payments page easier. Especially if they have enough types of similar users to Carlos Crab Company, they don't have to give away the secrets of any individual company, but they can talk about the same type of user and the things that they know that this company might not. So, great. Who can CommandBar reasonably help? This is that first big ring around the market. So we had a quick conversation. B2B or B2C SaaS seems like those are the kind of folks that really care about this. Headquartered in the United States. I don't know if this is important. I just made that up. No mobile app. So I don't think CommandBar works in a mobile app. So you really don't want to sell to someone that also is going to need the same experience in the mobile app. So that's a disqualifier. Probably more than 2 product managers, right? There's enough people that really care about the product here. And this might be kind of everyone. I don't know. And then one specific pain point. What's that one thing that if you said a sentence to a prospect in front of you that was actually this criteria, like if you just read off this criteria, that alone, they'd say, I understand why you want to sell to me, right? I understand why you think I have this problem. So this might be probably launched a big new product in the last 6 months, or launches product releases every, greater than 2 weeks, or sorry, I want to say less than 2 weeks on average. So that means that these folks are launching really, really quickly, and there's no reasonable way a support department can document all those changes, especially if the release notes are big. So you can, if they were in the App Store, for example, we might look at the App Store and say, who are folks that are launching every week with more than 12 bullet points of launch notes, right? Those are the folks that are just iterating so fast. There could be another proxy here, which is that there are way more engineering people than support people. That might be good enough. It could be greater than 300 total support articles, which means that there's a real big need to document things, right? There's a lot of focus on documentation, and CommandBar can solve that. Greater than 10 negative Capterra G2 reviews about product problems, right? Challenges people have in usage. Has in-product chat. That might be a great idea because you really care about the users and their experience, and you're solving this with human manpower, and CommandBar skips that. Has product usage analytics like Full Story, Hotjar. There's a bunch of things. And as you start to see this tech pile up, you'll know that people really, really care about deeply engaging with their users because they know that their product has some gaps. Or maybe has a bunch of churn analysis, right? They're thinking about user churn really heavily, how to understand it. Has Mixpanel. Maybe there's some other churn analytics software specifically that's a really good fit. Who needs CommandBar now? This is that second ring, right? So that might be launched a product with Y number of release notes, big release. It might be launch a product that talks about personal recommendations. That's something CommandBar is really good at. I saw you launch Lobster Co., Lobster Liquidator, and I noticed that you have a personal lobster recommender. We do that type of thing too. Has job listings for a PM that mentions onboarding, so they're thinking about onboarding. Onboarding is important to them. They need to fix it. Greater than X% of support or the engineering team left, right? Hey, I see that you lost a bunch of resources. I noticed that you wrote a bunch of articles. How are you going to do that now? Don't worry, I've got your back. CommandBar has your back. VP of product leaves, big product changes, right? It's probably a bad one. Hiring a support person with specific mention of helping new users. This is a good sign, right? Especially if you have a bunch of those people. 5 user onboarding specialists have just been hired. That's a good one. Hiring greater than 3 product designers with keywords like onboarding. They're thinking about changing their onboarding, about updating their onboarding. Added greater than 2 customer success with onboarding in their title, right? Again, sort of same thing. Let's talk about the website. Added greater than X number of support articles. So they had a big tranche of support articles. I see that you released 300 support articles. Wow. What are you going to do next time you launch a product? Added more than X new integrations. Wow, I see that you now went from 10 integrations to 100 integrations. Wow, how do you document all that new complexity of your product? Seen an X decrease in app.blah traffic, so you could actually look at the decrease in traffic from x.blah. A lot of tools that like SimilarWeb will do something like that. Added a free pricing tier, which means that they're thinking about automatically upgrading people, right? Getting people into the product first, product-led growth, they call this. So getting people into the product and then getting them upgraded. And that might be a perfect place where it's like, I don't have any time to figure this out. So, and now you know that they're attempting this strategy, and that strategy change is really important. G2 Crowd net negative reviews, new negative reviews, lots of tweets about like, how do I do this? So these are just examples of things you can start to think about. What's the 100x case here? Maybe it's greater than 10 products, right? You know that there's like a big pain, and this is usually correlated with pricing, right? Where can CommandBar get a huge premium on these customers? Has a product where more usage equals more revenue? That's a good one. An onboarding flow with greater than 10 screens, right? You know it's a pain in the butt to onboard people. They have greater than layoffs with greater than 10% of engineering of their support team gone, right? Fewer people to do the thing that CommandBar can make simple. Has greater than X percentage of product managers. A lot of people thinking about this. Load time for, I'm going to kind of breeze through some of these here, but load time slower than 4 seconds. I made that number up, but really if they've got some slow loading time, they're loading a lot of resources here. CommandBar might be able to simplify that. Publish pricing tier greater than 60K. Generally, companies don't do this, but this might be a good one to say, hey, you're a premium product. You should have a premium experience. Has greater than X feedback tech on their site, right? They're really, really thinking about this. So once you've reached some certain threshold, maybe in spending here, could be in some of tools, that's a good time to say, wow, you really, really care about your users. What if you could make things easier? CommandBar, I just happen to know that they're GDPR, HIPAA, SOC 2 compliant. They're all those things. So really, if people care about that, you can actually position against tools that aren't that way. Maybe has greater than 20 use case or product categories, so super complex products, right? That's a good use case for CommandBar. Greater than X% of articles were added, updated, greater than 3 product releases ago. So there's a huge delta between the time the product was released and the number of releases that the support documentation is lagging. Like, just forget it. Give up on that. You're not keeping up anyways. Greater than XG2 crowd net new negative reviews, lots of tweets. So those are sort of similar examples here, but you just raise the bar. And the last thing I'll say here, I cannot believe you made it here, but is that Programmatic Gold unlocks a brand new way to go to market across a bunch of channels. Programmatic SEO, actually, let's go clockwise here. Community building, right? So suddenly, once you can start to map some of these connections, you can say, I know X who is also struggling with Y. Come join me to meet her in the community. So if you know the pain of a prospect and you can connect that with an existing customer, suddenly what you're doing is not sales. You're connecting with other people that have solved that. They just happen to have used your product to do so. People trust a customer much more so than they trust a sales rep. Personalize paid by pain. Hard to say. That's a triple P. So you can actually run Facebook ads against these super specific audiences. Like, hey, I see you. I don't know why I picked just stop running Facebook ads, but if your product helped people run Facebook ads, you could say, I saw you just stop running Facebook ads. So they could get a Facebook ad that say that they just stopped running Facebook ads. Like, so meta. Programmatic outbound, that's what we've been talking about, right? Saw this happen, you're type of this company, and here's why you didn't know about your company. Here's what you didn't know about your company. So this is the empathy piece, right? This is, excuse me, this is about their company. And if you can use data to educate them about what's going on at their company, that's the highest bar. Programmatic SEO, Apollo launched all these, they basically open source their database. If you search for Apollo segment, you can see the page about segment, and their traffic jumped from like 100K to 1.2 million sort of overnight. So you can build these programmatic pages. So CommandBar might say, who has the best user onboarding? And we've scored all the products, right? Grade them. And suddenly those companies are going to come to CommandBar. Sales can spend only their time on these people that can make tremendous amounts of money by selling their products. So, hey, my manager, I'm in Cleveland. My manager said I have $5,000 that I have to spend before I leave Cleveland. Jordan, I'd love to spend it on you. Let's go out for a great dinner. Happy to tell you about my product, learn a little bit more about you. Easy upsells. So in this programmatic world, you can pick off competitor, like people that use competitor software, by monitoring for when they use that software, when they left, and that's the buyer that has left. They used that product at a previous startup, and you can say, I'm just like that product. I'm 10x cheaper. I'm 10x better. You know the type of thing that we do. We just happen to do it better, so you can speak in a different language with specific jargon. So that's all I have. I'm going to have one shout out here to SignalFire, is that the team at SignalFire and Olivia over there specifically are just amazing. And their data, their beacon data, is absolutely key to this process. So if you're thinking about raising money and you're thinking about this type of problem, I absolutely suggest that you connect up with SignalFire. Thanks for spending an hour with me. I'm so grateful for you, and you should congratulate yourself for learning a little bit more about how to go market in 2021. Please do comment, add any questions that you like. I'm here, I read them all, and the more interesting the comments, the better. I take all feedback, good, positive, and great. All right, thanks so much. Bye.